Hello everybody, this is Chris Bird or MonkeyDude1313, and this is a nearly complete master set of the Sun and Moon era promos. This is a first for our channel. We've uploaded over 45 videos of our master sets and nearly completed master sets, but we have never actually done promos, and that's because our promo binders have needed a little bit of work. So now that we're there, we're only missing 5 cards from this. Very excited to jump into it. This is part of our goal to collect all English Pokemon TCG that came from main sets, side sets, promos, Burger King, McDonald's, Trick or Trade, everything. We're trying to collect all of those wonderful English TCG cards, and turns out we have a new competition in the race. Mr. Danny Phantom himself is trying to do somewhat the same thing. It seems like he's not bothering with first editions like we are, but he is doing all the reverses and non-reverses, so pretty cool. I wish him the best of luck. His goal is to finish before the end of this year. I think that's very cool. Our goal is also to complete all English TCG, except we're including first editions, we're including all promos, we're including a bunch of stuff that it seems like he's not including. That's okay. So, let's jump into this set. I do want to mention real quick, though, that there are a million Charizards from the Sun Moon promos. So, I'm going to need to get that handy-dandy Charizard binder out with our first edition Dragonite bookmark to help us out. But let's just jump into this. So, we were very actively collecting when Sun Moon Base came out. We started around Black and White Dark Explorers. We were buying a case here, a box. We were buying a box or two here and there from Dark Explorers on. You know, the plasma sets really struck me. I absolutely loved those cards. But when Sun Moon came, I got all gung-ho about playing in the TCG tournaments. I really enjoyed the game, and I always have, but I was fresh out of college. I had some expendable income because now I had my first real job out of the house that was for computer engineering, and so obviously I had a bunch of extra income to start buying cards. We went to a ton of pre-releases. So most of the pre-releases that you're going to see in this binder, we actually just got ourselves from going to these events. And we were good friends with many different tournament organizers, and you know, we made some deals here and there, and we were able to get a few more of the promos than maybe we should have got. But that is okay. We only are missing 5 cards now. So let's keep going through this. With our normal sets, I'll usually flip through the main set fairly quickly, and then when we get to the, quote, good stuff is when I start pulling everything out. But for promos, basically the good stuff is everything, because most of these cards are hollow, and there are many, many GXs sprinkled throughout everything. So I'm just going to kind of pick and choose cards that I really enjoy or that I have a good feeling about or that I'd like to talk about. But otherwise, you're just going to get to see all of the wonderful promos from Sun and Moon. All right. So Guardians Rising pre-releases. This is when Tapu Lele GX came out. I think there's a promo Tapu Lele GX that we'll get to eventually, but its ability was absolutely bonkers and broken to the point where it was in every deck. Very, very powerful. You can see here, though, we've got some of the Tapus, many, many Cocos, and then we have some of the other ones like Bulu, and then we're going to have a Feeny coming up a little bit later. A fun story that I have is when I went to the pre-release for Guardians Rising, which is when the Guzma Full Art and the Tapu Fini GX came out. We were sitting next to someone who was having a great time with Pokemon, obviously very into it, just like we were, and he was opening his pre-release packs all excited because he had been talking about ya boy for a lot longer than most people were listening, I think. And he pulled the Full Art Tapu Fini GX from one of his packs. And instead of being happy or being surprised or excited, he was very upset because he got a Full Art, but it wasn't the Full Art Guzma from the set, which he was really dying for. So while we were opening our normal packs and just pulling random stuff, he pulled a Full Art and was upset about it. That's okay, though. That's kind of how things go. People have their own interests. So you got a nice row of the Full Art Final Evolution starters from Sun Moon. Since this was so close to the beginning of Sun Moon's release, they were still trying their best to make sure they pump out the popular Pokemon for the game. I especially like this Meowth, by the way. I know people who are huge Meowth fans, and this is a great card. Moving right along, you will see another Alolan Meowth here, Burning Shadows pre-release cards, which we actually were selling extras of on eBay at one point, and we have a Charizard GX here. We don't need to go to the Charizard binder for this one because we had at least 2 of them. So one can go in the binder and one can go in the Charizard binder off camera over there. So I will pull out that Charizard. Absolutely wonderful Charizard art here. And interestingly enough, in the Burning Shadows set, the third set in the Sun Moon era, they did not include a full art Charizard GX. They included the half art, they included the Hyper Rainbow Rare, the one that DPM is looking for. They did not include the full art because they wanted to put it into a promo box. So of course we were first in line to pick up some of those promo boxes, but what that meant is that you could never get all three of the Charizards from the set itself. Alright, another fun one to point out is this Ho-Oh GX up here. This guy had some very powerful decks at the time because Kiawe, a supporter card at the time, was very, very powerful. And so fire decks with Charizard and or Ho-Oh were doing decently well. And of course, since it's a meta deck with my favorite Pokemon Charizard, I enjoyed playing those quite a lot. So let's keep on going, and we will notice here not only are we into the fourth set now, but we have a few staff promos. So this is where a few of our connections come into play. You'll notice that there's a little bit of a gold staff wording there. Let me get the light on it perfectly. We were not staff at these events. We did not run the events. We did not run the tournaments. We were not in any position where we should have gotten these staff cards. But we are very, very good friends with someone who was. And if they got extra copies, they were happy to trade them to us. And so you'll notice throughout the binder here and there, we will have some staff copies of pre-release cards. And what we've chosen to do for this binder is, if we have both a staff and a non-staff, we'll put the staff one in here. But our rule for a master set of Sun Moon promos does not require both staff and non-staff versions. So if we have the staff, we don't need to get the non-staff. If we have the non-staff, we don't need to get the staff. But we need to have at least one of the two. This space right here is the first of the cards we're missing. This is the Sun Moon equivalent of Tropical Beach. I'll show a picture of it on screen. They usually have a tropical festival, a tropical beach, or something similar. This is one of those. So the reason these are being left for the end is not only are they very difficult to find in good quality, but also they are very, very expensive because they were only given out to people who played in the serious tournaments at the highest levels, and those are not easy to get. All right, moving right along, Rainbow Ho, very nice here. Shining Celebi, these were kind of a big deal. You'll also see a Shining Lugia and Ho-Oh a little bit later here. But these cards, they weren't necessarily playable per se, but they were very, very cool at the time. All right, flipping over to the next page. Got some nice cards over here. We got Latios combo here, Full Art Raichu, and then this is a shiny Silvally GX. Pull out this guy to take a look at. Very hard to tell the shiny from the non-shiny Silvally, but in Crimson Invasion, the fourth set, Silvally GX was introduced, along with its ability to change types using discs, and this was a shiny version of the card from the Crimson Invasion set. Alright, and quickly before I move on, I had mentioned that there was a Shining Lugia in here, and here we go. I believe this is the most valuable of all of the Shining cards from this Sun and Moon era, and they released it as a promo. We ended up with quite a few of them, and traded them off to help us complete more master sets. Alright. So, we have a staff Wash Rotom. This Pokemon will forever be called Banjo in my mind, because my friend and I were breeding a ton of competitive Pokemon at the time for VGC and just for fun. We were doing all the hidden power nonsense and all the EV trainings and everything, and we got a very, very powerful Wash Rotom that was very meta at the time, and I called mine Banjo. So, this Pokemon is Banjo, and will forever be Banjo, and don't fight me about it. That Pokemon is named Banjo as far as I'm concerned. Named after Banjo-Kazooie, by the way, because in Banjo-Tooie, he could turn into a dishwasher form. Gotta make sure I add that in, because otherwise that makes no sense at all. Alright, so let's keep going. These guys have a little bit of interesting stuff to them. So if we look at this Rainbow Lunala here, we see that we actually have one of the first alternate art numbers. So this is alternate art, you can see by the A there. And then it's SM103A, which means that right here, with the same abilities, same Pokemon, same HP and everything, you have Pokemon 103 and then 103A. Even though 103A technically could be considered shoved in with 103, we've decided that they are different enough cards that we want to make sure we collect both. So for both Lunala and Solgaleo, however you're supposed to pronounce it, we have the normal and the alternate art version. So there and there. Alright, next up. These Ashes Pikachus. You can see they have all the hats, and this is from all the different generations that had been released to this day. this day meaning back in Sun Moon era. So we have 8 hats for the 8 different, well, for the 7 different +1 special. And, oh, actually, this is just 7 here. I don't know what I'm talking about. 7 special Pikachu hats. We actually got these as well from the same person who was able to get us the staff promos. So very fortunate to have access to these. These guys are not cheap anymore, but at the time we pulled them out of the sealed pack and threw them into this binder. And I absolutely love the spread here. I think it's very cool. I'm very, very happy to have those, and we even have a few extras that are still in our trade binder to this day. All right, moving on. We go into some more Forbidden Light pre-release promos here. We have a shiny Zygarde GX, which was in the Forbidden Light set. And then we already have Celestial Storm here. So this kind of gives an interesting idea of how many promos are released from the beginning of the set to the end of a set. So if you trust that this staff Lycanroc and this staff Xurkitree were released day 1 or even pre-day 1 of the Forbidden Light expansion, then you would also have to believe that this Kyogre here was released at the beginning of the next set, Celestial Storm, one of the best Sun Moon sets, by the way. And so what that means is that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 promos released during the time of Forbidden Light. And if we assume that's around 3-ish to 4-ish months, you can see how many promos they release at the time. Very, very nice. Very interesting details there. Love this Delcatty for obvious reasons, but let's keep on going. You'll see here that we now have our next missing card, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. We have some really interesting 3D rendering style legendaries here in Half Art GX form, and then we have some of the cooler full arts in the set. We have the Salamence GX full art, Sun Moon number 139, and then we have a white Kyurem GX full art as well, chilling right here below it. Very beautiful cards, and a lot of people playing now do not even know these cards exist. So, quite fun to pull them out and look at them, and even remember how we got some of these guys. Alright, Legendary Birds, Evolutions, and then the Lost Thunder pre-releases. This is yet another of those festival-type cards. I'll show this specific one on the screen here, but that is another one that we're missing. That brings our total to 2 missing festival-type cards from the Sun Moon promos. All right, don't get too ahead of yourself, but this is where tag teams start. So when Team Up was released, as you can see Team Up pre-releases here, when Team Up was released, we got tag teams, which are extremely popular these days. They went through a massive hike in popularity a couple of months ago. Overall, fantastic cards. But I don't want to go too fast because I want to make sure we pull out this Dragonite GX Rainbow. People don't really appreciate Rainbow cards. I can understand it. You know, they're just rainbow. I get it. But with the attention to detail on the patterns in the back of the texture, I really think with a good design you can make these rainbow cards look good. So, since they're rainbow, they're not all that sought after these days, but that's okay. Alright, so similar to that other full art Charizard we talked about earlier, we have at least 2 of these Team Up pre-release Charizards, and so one of them get to live in the promo binder itself instead of the Charizard binder. This missing card is the first missing card that's not one of the tropical promos. This is the Pikachu version that goes with this Mimikyu. It is electric type, but it has both a Pikachu and a Mimikyu looking at each other, kind of being curious and explorative, and then this is the Mimikyu that goes along with that. I'm not sure if this Mimikyu came up. I think this Mimikyu was part of a 1-pack Team Up blister that you could get at checkouts at like Target and Walmart and stuff. We got this one from Ricky at FKC Playground, Oyama's Trading at FKC Playground maybe 5 months ago at this point, but very happy to have that memory there. And the elephant in the room, I have to pull out each of these tag teams. So, Team Up has Magikarp and Wailord GX tag team in the set. But, similar to that Charizard Full Art, there is no Half Art Magikarp and Wailord GX in the set. The only way to get this card is to get it from the promos back in the day. Or I guess to trade for it now or buy it straight up online. There are other Wailord cards that have very similar art, where they are opening their mouth and swallowing a ton of water, and so this card is actually paying a little bit of homage to that. Alright, next up, we have the Celebi and Venusaur GX. We got a fairly good deal on this one because we did not buy it back in the day. We found a vendor at the very end of a day it was the end of a Sunday as well. And he was really just hoping to pack up and get home. He wanted to make a little bit more money. And so when I expressed some amount of interest in it, but his price was a little bit too high for me, he offered a price that was basically impossible to refuse. So we ended up with the Celebi and Venusaur GX full art here. Very beautiful. Next up, we got this from a Degen trade night. Someone had this Pikachu and Zekrom GX, and aside from the centering, this card is in absolutely beautiful condition. And our goal really for these sets is to go LP or better. We don't want to be buying damaged stuff. Damaged cards can have their own charm. You know, there's a lot of story with these used to be played by a real person, but we prefer to go for LP or better quality. And so when we find this Pikachu and Zekrom GX full art promo, and it's in just absolutely gorgeous shape aside from centering, we had to have it. So we picked that one up at a Degen trade night. This Eevee and Snorlax we got from one of our vendor buddies here in the Bay. Fantastic guy. We got a decent deal, but with vendors that we do a lot of deals with, I try to make sure that they make a good amount of money on the purchases they've made. Well, we also save a couple of bucks. And so even though I may not have got as deep of a discount as I would normally go for on these kinds of things, I'm absolutely willing to pay a lot closer to market for vendors that we have a very good relationship with. You know, they scratch my back, we'll scratch theirs. All right, so let's move on. We've seen now 3 cards we're missing, and this is a wonderful Eevee page. Much Eevee to be had here. We have Flareon, Vaporeon, and Jolteon, and then we have 3 half-art Eevees. And I'm seeing a lot more glare here than I expected. Let's see if I can fix that real quick. There you go. But got some nice full arts, half arts of Eevee and the Gen 1 crew. And now we are into Unbroken Bonds pre-releases. Unbroken Bonds, another set that I bought way too much of because it had Charizard and Braixen GX tag team, which we will see in the Charizard binder when we get there. I want to pull out this Alolan Marowak GX real quick. Alolan Marowak does not get a lot of representation on Pokemon cards. And so this was one of its first times being shown in the TCG because it was a Pokemon released in Alola, which is the location of Sun Moon. And so this is one of the first Alolan Marowak cards, and I think it's very, very cool. Okay, so cute Eevee playing with a berry, angry Pikachu, and let's move on a little bit. All right, so this is where the Charizard and Braixen GX tag team would be, and we'll pull out the binder for that in a moment. This full art Blastoise GX, very similar to that Charizard full art before, where we got the half art and hyper rare in a set, but then we got the Blastoise here from the promo box. All right, so full disclosure, I'm not a huge fan of the Detective Pikachu cards, the Detective Pikachu movie, or the style. I don't think they did a bad job, but the hyper-realistic version just really doesn't do it for me. And so I'm generally not going to be talking about the Detective Pikachu stuff all that much. I'll pull out the Mewtwo and the Greninja here because I must, but, you know, I'm not thrilled about it. But anyway, Mewtwo and Mew GX tag team. Boy, howdy, do I regret getting this when it was a lot cheaper. 1 year ago, this card was like $80, and we passed on it a bunch of times. I didn't think it was going to be that crazy. I didn't think it was going to go way up, and it ended up going up to over $300. But we went to a card show. We found a vendor that we had never met before. We talked back and forth. We did a little bit of bargaining, and I ended up getting this for a decent price. Nothing fantastic, but still a fantastic card in great condition. Very happy we picked this one up. Next up, Lucario and Melmetal. We got this from one of our favorite frequent vendors. You know, at this point, I'll just start doxing some vendors here and there. Peruvian Poppers. Fantastic guy. We do a ton of deals with him, and he's just fantastic to work with. But he had this card and a few others that we needed, and so it was very nice to pick this one up. Very cool tag team indeed. Next up, Garchomp and Giratina GX tag team. This one we got from Wallace. Wallace is very, very deep into Pokemon. He ran a card shop. He has bulk boxes of Shadowless First Edition bulk, which is a very interesting tidbit, and we're trying to raid those as we can. But he had this card available for sale, and so we picked that up. All right, so let's jump into the Charizard binder real quick. We are looking for Sun Moon 195. Charizard binder here. Make sure that's in frame. And I try not to show off too much of the binder at any given time, just because the Charizards here are really fun to see, and we could spend an entire video going over them. So I'll skip directly to the first page, and this is the full art Charizard GX that we had from Sun Moon. Very, very nice. And there are no more Sun Moon era promos on this page. So we go to the next one here, where we're going to start seeing a few more of the promos. This is the tag team pre-release that we looked at before. Like I mentioned, we had 2 of them. And this is the Charizard we're here for right now. Sun and Moon 195 Detective Pikachu Charizard. Hyper realistic and hyper creepy, in my opinion. So this card will go right here in our placeholder and finish the set of 3 ultra realistic Pokemon GX from Detective Pikachu. Okay, so that is the end of this page for Charizards. I will gingerly move Charizards off to the side for now and let us keep going. So this guy we have at least 2 copies of, so he gets to live in the binder as well. Reshiram and Charizard GX, full art, Sun Moon 201. I adore the art on this, not just because it has Charizard, one of my favorite Pokemon, looking quite menacing, chilling here with Reshiram, but also I really like the attention to detail with all of these little fiery faces here in the background. I think this card is just beautiful. All right, Unified Minds pre-release promos here. Very nice set. We bought way too much of it. I don't regret it. Moving right along. Okay, interesting story to tell about these stained glass birds. We had a lot of these guys. We didn't think they were going to be valuable. We just ended up buying a lot of the product that had this. So when we got back, when we fully decided to commit to the master set of all English TCG, we had quite a few of these. So on our first grading submission ever, which is still our only grading submission, we've only sent things into grade once, I went through all of our sealed promos of these, because we didn't open any of them. This one actually is still sealed. The one in here is still sealed. I went through all of the ones that we still had sealed and picked out one to grade, one that I thought might get a 10. Very lucky, it did get a 10, and we sold that off to get some other, or traded it off to get some other cards. Very, very nice. Okay, here in this one, back to the Charizard binder. We are looking for Sun Moon 211. Go to our next bookmark here. And we have Sun Moon 201, the one we were talking about before. And this is Sun Moon 211. Half art Charizard GX, which actually looks full art, but it is what it is. So this card would actually end up going right here. And these 3, as you can tell, or as you can probably guess, came out at the same time, just in different products. Very, very nice. Okay. So, next up, we have Tag Team Trevenant and Dusknoir GX. I bring special attention to this guy because the Japanese TCG got 2 other copies of this. They got a full art and a hyper rare or rainbow rare version of this card. We only got the half art, and we got it as a promo, not as part of a set. So this is actually the only Trevenant and Dusknoir GX tag team that English TCG got, as far as I know. If you know of anything else, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear it. But this is the only one that I know of. Very, very cool card, but one of its kind in English. Okay, moving right along. Cosmic Eclipse pre-release promos here. Very nice. Since we're deep into tag teams, we're basically at the end of Sun and Moon now. This set, I think there's maybe one more set, or maybe no more sets after Cosmic Eclipse. I don't remember, but I think this is one of the last sets. All right. Keep on going. We have 2 more Charizards to pull out here, and this card is yet another Tropical Beach variant. So these come out every time they have a national tournament, these Tropical Beach or tropical type promos. So since we've only seen 3 of them in this binder, or seen the missing copy of 3 of them, that means that this era spanned a little over 3 years, maybe closer to 4. But let's go in for SM226. Back into the Charizard binder we go. And we open it up to this page, where we can pull out Sun Moon promo 226. This Charizard has similar or the exact same markings as the Pokemon movie where Mewtwo cloned everyone and Pikachu had to slap Pikachu in the face, which is a very popular clip online, and where the crying Pikachu scene comes from when Ash turns to stone. Sorry guys, but I spoiled a movie from over 20 years ago. I apologize. I love this card. I didn't know it existed for quite a long time, but I'm very happy to have found it and picked it up. Next up, while we're here, I can bring out this Sun Moon 230 Charizard and Breaks and GX. Fantastic art here. Charizard looks a little derpy, but that's okay. Still a beautiful promo card, and that 230 goes down here. So imagine that Scar Charizard GX, Charizard going up here, this guy going here, and then that tropical promo going there. Solid. Okay, so keeping on, we have this goofy EVGX. We bought the promo box this came in, so this is our copy from back when this came out in 2019, 6 years ago, or 7 years ago at this point. This card is absolutely derpy. Despite my partner loving Eevee and Evolutions as a Pokemon line in general, she doesn't really appreciate this card this much. And that's why I like this card a lot. I really like it when they stretch and skew characteristics of Pokemon, and this card is no exception. Fantastic. All right, so down here, we also got these ones when they came out, and they're worth quite a pretty penny these days. Tag Team Espeon and Deoxys GX. Similar to the Dusknoir and Trevenant, we did not get half full or hyper rare versions of these guys. Actually, I take that back. We got the half art versions, and then we got these. But Espeon and Deoxys look great, and then Umbreon and Darkrai also looks great, but of course this one has the Umbreon tax, because Umbreon. People love Umbreon these days for very obvious reasons. Very cool Pokemon, very themed with the moon, and a ton of cards with a ton of money, which just drives the hype even higher. Beautiful. Okay, so this is actually, I believe, the last flip for the Sun and Moon promo binder, and we see a full art EVGX, and we see one more missing card here. And this one has a little bit of an interesting story. So, it's a Charizard. We go back into the Charizard binder, and we flip through quite a few. So this is actually a Sword Shield era promo. Okay, why is that valuable? Well, this binder is going from chronological oldest to newest, and right now, most sources I can find say that these Sword and Shield promos came out before the Sun and Moon promo that's on this page, which is this golden Reshiram and Charizard GX, which is SM247, one of the very last promo cards in the Sun Moon set. Let's throw that up there. It goes right next to the Pikachu and Zekrom, which makes a ton of sense, and finishes off the set. So, we are missing 4 cards, actually. I lied at the beginning, we're missing 4 cards. We're missing 3 of the Tropical World Championship cards, and we're missing the yellow Pikachu and Mimikyu promo that's worth about $100 right now. Alright, I've rambled for way longer than I expected. I honestly had no idea how a promo video binder would go, but I really enjoyed this. I had a great time. Promo sets, when you complete them like this, or when you're really close to completing them, are very, very fun, because the binder layout is not just common, uncommon, rare, common, uncommon, common, 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 uncommon, holo rare, half art. You know, it's not very basic stuff. Every page in this binder is just packed to the brim with very interesting cards. And not just because they're shiny, but because they each have a different location that they came from in the TCG. Some were from going to events, some were from promo boxes, some were from winning tournaments, like this guy right here that we don't have yet. Alright, I've talked a lot. What do you guys think of the Sun Moon promos? Are you guys a fan of collecting promos? Do you kind of view them as whatever? Or are they your chase cards? If you want to invest in Pokemon and you want to have a great time opening packs, but you also want to make sure you guarantee some value out of your money, even if your packs all suck, buy a promo box. You're guaranteed to get one of these really cool promo cards, and you get to try your luck at the packs themselves as well. So, personally, I love collecting promos. I think they're a lot of fun, the binder layout is very neat, and a lot of them generally have a story to them, and either how we got them, where they were from, whether were they based off of a real card or not. Who knows? As if promos aren't real. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.